This is Flat Out Agility, an Australian agility podcast. I'm Grace. Today I am joined by agility judge and handler Nadine Neethling. I met Nadine recently at an agility trial she was judging at in Coffs Harbour. She lives in Perth, Western Australia, and today we're going to talk about her experiences as a handler and judge. So to start us off, Nadine, can you tell us about your experience in agility?
Okay, so I started agility when I was around 13 years old in South Africa. I always wanted a border collie since I was about 4. I saw someone on a farm while we were visiting friends and I just wanted to have one. So when I was 13, my parents were like, okay, you're old enough now to have your own dog. And at the time, I read a book called Chummy, and it was about a border collie, and he did agility. And so I was just like, right, this is what I want to do with my dog. Got into a club in South Africa and pretty much never looked back. So over there, I competed. I went to nationals. So nationals in South Africa, you have to actually qualify for. So that was kind of cool. I went to nationals, and then we moved to Australia. Obviously, my dogs had to stay back there. And I pretty much had a puppy lined up as we landed in Australia and just kept going. And then over the years, I've instructed, I have been the president of an agility club, I've judged. Just big hobby, big addiction. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that, it becoming sort of an addiction.
Yeah.
So in your experience, what's different about agility in Western Australia specifically?
I think in WA, because we're quite isolated geographically, we have this little isolated community. We have a lot less trial opportunities, which can be a pro and a con. Like I often think, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool to just be able to pick and choose and have a trial lined up every single weekend, but that's not the case here. But then the upside of that is we kind of force our dogs to have a break. We have the opportunity to dabble in other things. And I think, it has changed in that there's more stuff online. So even though we're isolated, we're not as isolated as maybe when I first started doing agility in WA, but there's definitely still that little small community. And then that's the other side of it. We're like this little community, kind of like a family, and we're really close knit, which again, ups and downs. I think like recently someone lost a dog to old age and the whole community just felt that pain. Like it was just so powerful. Like everyone was sad about this dog. It wasn't even our dog. Everyone was crying. And at the same time, you have family things like all families fight and you have like little conflicts and stuff. But I think overall, it's quite good to have this little small community, little island of agility.
Do you think that that sort of changes any cultural aspects at all, or just it's the same kind of thing but smaller?
I think it's the same thing as smaller. I always thought it was different until I started judging over East and I see the same sort of little problems pop up. I'm like, it's the same here as it is in WA. Like, you have your little handful of people that always help and a lot of people who just don't put in the effort, but it's just on a smaller scale.
So how do you find being a handler in that community that is so sort of separated by distance and is remote?
I think, to be honest, though, so I haven't really competed for a while. I've mainly been judging. We had a bunch of old dogs. That's why I started judging. And then I got my little spaniel who was going to be my next agility dog. And she just went, nah, I don't like this sport. She likes training, doesn't like competing. She has severe performance anxiety. So we went, okay. So my hiatus in handling was a little bit delayed or continued on. But hopefully soon this year I shall start running again. But previously, I think you get used to that little small community. And I think the first time I went over to nationals was in 2008 with one of my border collies. And it was just like the scale was just mind blowing. I was just like, oh my goodness. Things like over here when we do course walking, it's like, oh yeah, walk till you're done, walk till you're ready. And we got over there and just like, you've got 10 minutes. And it's like, what? Only 10 minutes? So yeah, we get a bit spoiled, I think, with just everything's a bit more relaxed and everyone around you. So I think that's the main difference between having that little small community.
I can relate a lot. I mean, for one, I also have a dog that is great in training and doesn't want to compete. So I feel you there. But also, I mean, it sounds like Darwin is very similar to the sort of Western Australia community of agility. Like it's very small.
Yeah.
But also, coming back from having been at Coffs Harbour, it was really interesting because I can kind of come back and make fun of like my people and be like, we are so lucky. Like you're all complaining about things that's not going to fly elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just teasing. I totally get why we're like we are the way we are because it doesn't matter. There's only 10 of us. So of course we can course walk and then we take our time and
Yeah.
that's just how it is sometimes.
Yeah, things like going into the ring as well. Like over here, there's not that pressure of getting in, getting it done, quick, quick, quick. There's like, oh yeah, even like as a judge, sometimes they'll be like, oh, so and so is coming, and you watch them like just toddling over from the other side of the oval, and you're like, yep, that's okay, we'll just wait for them. Whereas I think in your big trials and your bigger events, it's just sorry, we've called you 3 times, you're out. See you later. Yep.
Yeah, that is also a key difference here. We actually have had judges from other states kind of be like, "What is going on? You guys are not organized." And we're like, "Yeah, we just go with it, you know.
Yeah.
We know they're coming."
Yeah.
So when did you start judging and why? You've just sort of touched on it there, but tell us the story.
Yeah, so actually, Facebook told me this morning that I've been a judge for 11 years today, which I thought was a lot less. I was like, I think it's around 8 years, but apparently it's 11. So between my husband and I, we had 6 dogs, and there was about 4 years age gap between them from the youngest to the eldest. And so they all retired pretty much at the same time. And having 6 dogs in the house, there was no space or sanity for another puppy at that point. So we were just like, okay, what else can we do? We did lots of instructing, and then the judging course came up, and so we're like, oh, let's do that. Yeah, and so we did the course, and that just kind of kept us in the game. It was just a way to sort of stay in touch, but it just became so much more, and we really love it. I really love it. It just gives you that different perspective of the game we love and what goes into it, and you start thinking about it a little bit differently. Before becoming a judge, I would just run a dog. I would just like, you walk a course, you run it. I didn't really think about lines and where you are, where your dog is, which now I think I just have a so much better understanding of that side of things. And I think that will hopefully, with this next dog that I'm going to start running soon, will reflect that, like just that more thoughtfulness when approaching a course and how you train and what you train for. And yeah.
So 11 years is a long time. What's kept you? Like, what's the main thing that's kept you doing it?
I think just the love of the sport. Like, it's hard to explain just why I love the sport as much as I do. I think it's that connection of your dog. And then as a judge, just watching people enjoy it. I like the creative side of like designing courses, putting in challenges, and then watching what people are going to do with it. And coming from instructing as well. So you instruct people in puppy class that's brand new to the sport, and you just over the time watch them that little spark grow, and they suddenly you're like, oh yeah, now they have another puppy, and then they start competing, and you watch them in novice as a judge, and you're like, oh my god, I remember you as a puppy. And it's just so lovely to see that grow from beginning foundations to getting to competing, and then you see them get another dog and another dog, and you're like, oh yeah, you're addicted now too. That's really cool.
And how does judging compare to running your dog since you've done like both for a long time?
I think what people don't realize is judging can be just as nerve-wracking. So, you get a little bit of nerves walking into the course with your dog, but you're just worried about you and your dog. That's all you have to think about. When you're judging, there's that you have to worry about everyone. So you have to think about everyone. You get to know certain dogs and you design a course and you think that will work, and then someone steps up to the line, you're like, oh, how is this gonna go? Because you know that dog and you're like, oh dear. So I think there's that extra layer of concern and having to be thoughtful and taking things into account and being a bit more aware of safety, but rather than just thinking about what would be safe for my dog that you know really well, you kind of have to go, well, what else is going to come in that ring? It could be anything, and you just have to be mindful and aware of all of everyone's safety. And yep.
Yeah, I mean, and on that note, what are some things that competitors might not realize about how much sort of focus or work goes into judging?
I think so. Everyone, I think, has an idea that, we spend quite a bit of time on designing our courses, like probably not realize how much time. But I think the main thing that people don't realize is the mental focus that goes into judging. To be able to give everyone a fair amount of your attention and your focus, is so mentally draining, and I didn't realize just how much it is until I started judging overseas, where the classes are a lot bigger. So in WA, if you might have like a class of 30 would be probably a big class, and even that, by the end of it, your brain is just dead. And that's why when people ask me, well, that's why our scribes are so important, and that they get the right results down, because they might ask me like, "Oh, the dog that ran like 2 dogs ago, was that a fault or was that a clear?" And I'm like, "I don't know." The second they walk out the ring, their run goes out my brain and I'm focusing on the next one, because it's just you have to just like go, "Right, I'm done with that one, next one." So it's really hard to like, yeah, recall any runs if people ask me, "Oh, what was that again?" I'm like, I don't know. I know it happened 5 seconds ago, but it is gone."
And taking Coffs Harbour as just because it's a recent example, I mean, one of those days was 2 p.m. to like 9 or something,
Yeah.
which is pretty long. I mean, it's not that bad. When you compare it to here, like our trials go for like probably 4 to 5 hours, but
Yeah.
that's just because we're slow. Um, but just sort of thinking about that, like I know you weren't judging 100% of the time, but for most of that time, you're standing out there in the sun, and then you've
Yeah.
got like, and I counted based on the catalog numbers, I think there was like 100 to 130 dogs,
Yep.
across, and it's 2 rings, but still. So like
Yep.
that's a lot of just work.
Yes, it's the mental drain of it is quite big. Like, it's still you do enjoy it, and I absolutely love being out there and watching every dog, but it's that, like, extreme focus for 30 seconds, and then it needs to go because the next one's coming in. You have to focus on that one. I find that quite hard.
But let's talk about the creative side, which you say you liked. So how do you approach designing a course?
So I really struggle looking at a blank screen. So I use Smarter Agility for most of my course design, and just sitting there at with a blank screen is just not can't do it. So what I do is I watch a lot of like videos of runs from all over the world, and I'll watch the run and go, "Oh, I actually like that sequence." So it'll be like a small sequence that I go, "Oh, I really like that," so I'll jot it down. And the other thing is I follow a lot of judges from all over the world who post lots of maps, and if you look at my phone camera or like, yeah, photo album on my phone, about 50% of it is just course maps that I've saved. And so I'll scroll through that and I'll go, "Oh, I like this sequence," and I'll plop that on the map, and then I'll start playing around that. Um, so I wouldn't like just straight copy someone's map, but I'll borrow a little bit here and there, and then I'll start playing. And by the end of it, once I've started, moving things around to make other things work around it, it's not even the same sequence anymore anyway, but it's just to get that spark going. Um, and then I like to think, okay, I really want to try putting in a thread also. I'll put that on the map, and then I'll start building around that. And then often by the end, my course doesn't have a threadle in it anymore because I've played around with it so much to make it work. But yeah, that's sort of what I do to get myself going, just to have something on the screen. Otherwise, I can't start with a blank screen.
And then from there, how do you account for those different handling styles or dog types, so like size or type of dog or levels of experience?
So I think that's probably the trickiest part of course design, is to keep in mind everyone. And I've always kind of gone with, well, if it's safe for a really big dog, the little dogs can make it work. Having said that, now that I'm about to start running a toy poodle, and watching her work on really big distances between obstacles, I'm like, "Oh, that's really not very fair." Now that I've got, like, that new insight, I'm like, "Oh, actually, that could be very, demoting for a little dog to have to run, 10 meters between obstacles." So I might be rethinking what I do there, but it is tricky because a small dog can work on big spaces, whereas a big dog really needs those big spaces. So it's finding that happy medium of what would work for a big dog, but as well as a small dog. I think, things like I know when we had nationals in Perth, I got the opportunity to just do, I think it was 2 and 300 dogs. So it was like a actual little dog course, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually really fun to," I don't have to put in these big spaces. I can take into account that the little legs are quite short, and if we had the luxury to always have different courses for different heights, that would be amazing. But that's definitely not going to happen in Perth with time constraints and the groups we have. So, in terms of skills, I find excellent the hardest. So when you do a master's course, okay, you have to have, or not have to, but you want to put in a certain amount of skills and challenges. And for novice, kind of feel just stepping into the ring is the challenge for novice dogs. And so I just go for something that's not boring. So you don't want them to just run in a circle, but at the same time, you want their lines to be so obvious for the dog that they just can't miss it. But then excellent, I find finding that middle between novice and masters is probably my hardest task. I often put down an excellent course. I'm like, oh, that's a bit more too mastery, or that's a bit too novice-y. I really struggle to have that happy medium for excellent. But yeah, that's my work in progress to get that just right.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm not a judge. Do plan to become one eventually one day, but I don't envy that at the moment because it does look really hard, making those kinds of calls. And I have the bias of small dogs because I run small dogs and I run the training at my club, and so I'll set up a course and I'm just defaulting small dogs, and then I see a dog do something and I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I need to because they're like a big dog is taking so many more strides or something, or their stride is just larger. And then I'm like, I need to give them more space to take off. And that's just in training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can imagine it's really hard to get that balance as a judge.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, I think, having it, because we've got Nelson, our golden retriever, which is a big boy with a big stride. And I hope working with him, even though he's Simon's dog, working with him and then working with Nori, who's my little toy poodle, that'll give me a bit more insight into where little dogs go and where big dogs, and trying to find that happy in the middle. But yeah, it's always a struggle.
So once you've made your course, what makes it sort of truly satisfying to watch people compete in or judge?
Watching dogs have fun is my main thing. Like if you could just see the handler and the dog just walk out, even if they didn't go clear, and then everyone has a smile on their face and they just had fun. And also if it just flows really nicely and you can see the dogs just kind of with very little input from their handle kind of just know where to go. So it's almost like that natural line. They're just like, oh yeah, this is obviously where I need to go. That I really enjoy that, when it just looks like they're just flying and it's just this beautiful dance and everyone's just happy. Um, that makes me really happy. Yeah, and just seeing confidence in dogs. So when that happens, where it's just like this perfect flow and everyone's happy, you just see the confidence in the dogs, like, oh, that was actually fun and I didn't have to work too hard, and it just works. That makes me happy.
And I'm assuming clear rounds makes you happy?
Not necessarily. I've had dogs that obviously, yeah, when they run clear, it's really happy, and because the handler is happy. But I've had as a handler and as a judge, seen runs that were not clear, and you're just like, that was just perfect. Like, yes, they dropped a bar and they missed a contact, but whatever. That was just the most perfect, flowy, beautiful dance that happened on the course. Like, yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a clear round.
I appreciate you saying that because I think it is a thing that people say all the time, but it's important to hear because, for example, at Coffs Harbour, Topaz did really well in novice, but in an open, we've always DQ in every open run we've done. And that weekend we didn't DQ, we NQ'd in both, and they were both refusals.
Yeah.
But I was stoked. Like those were two really nice runs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people forget that agility is probably one of the most unforgiving sports ever. Like if you think about any other sport, there's always room for error. Like you could, if you think like someone playing tennis, they could make mistakes on the court and still win the match. Like easy. With agility, it's a split second and you're out. And you're also working with an animal who doesn't understand English or can't read numbers. So it's so unforgiving. So you could have the perfect round, but your dog missed the contact because they're just too excited and they jumped off. Like, it's just, such an unforgiving sport. And sometimes I'm like, why do we actually love this so much? It's so unforgiving, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess because you're striving for that challenge. But then, it is really important to find other metrics for success because it's not always clear rounds.
No, I think clear rounds is just so hard to come by. People don't realize that. When I instruct, that's one of the big things I tell people. I'm like, come and steward or come and scribe, and you'll see how few clear rounds there is in the top classes, like top handlers. Clear rounds are not that should not be your criteria for success at all, because you will fail and you will want to walk away.
Where sort of speaking on this kind of, the margin for error, this, where do you see that line between sort of the challenge and the fairness? You talked a bit about novice versus masters, so I guess it's a good excellence question of where is the line between the challenge and the sort of trying to make it fair. Fair is maybe not the right word, but you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I think in terms of so I think fairness for me comes from my actual judging and being that consistent for everyone. So I went through a phase where I really struggled with refusal calls and I was just like, "Ugh, I just don't know when to call them and when to not call them. Whereas now I feel a bit more confident with them. But it's just being consistent. So if one dog does something and you call it a refusal, you have to make sure that you call it the same thing for everyone. So that's where my fairness, I think, comes from. And then, challenges, I think I try to kind of think about it as a progression. So for novice, like I said, especially agility, it's just getting into the ring and the obstacles itself should be the challenge. Having it so that it's very obvious for the dog where they should be going and then stepping it up. So in novice, I'll try and put something that's a very mild challenge. So it might be a tight turn somewhere. That would be their challenge. And then for excellent, I'll step it up a little bit and I'll try and put one what I would consider a master's challenge, but an easy version of it. So it might be a back off jump, but it's the obvious line for the dog. So you start to introduce the dogs to what is coming next. And in masters, I feel like it shouldn't be uncomfortable for the dog and the handler. There should be enough challenges. And I also think the challenge comes from trialing should be a test of where you're at, especially at master's level. So I'll throw challenges at them. And if you can't do it, I don't think that's an unfair aspect. It's a right now, this is something that you can go and work on. So I think that the responsibility of the handler comes in there a little bit, that it's up to you to then go, okay, this is something that I could be facing. And my dog obviously doesn't know how to do it. So we need to go back and train it.
And just throwing this one out there, how do you approach the distance challenge in an open course? What's your personal approach to it?
Again, so I try and make it obvious for the dog. And so I don't like putting challenges in there that goes where they have to run one way and turn and go the other way again. So it's usually one directional and I try and keep momentum going. So I wouldn't put a tight turn before they go into the challenge. It's having that momentum so they sort of keep running. I've done a little, and at the same time, you don't want it to be boring. You don't want it to just be a straight line. So I've done things where they might go out, come back to the handler, and using that same momentum, go back into the challenge. So the dog crossed the line twice, but the handler doesn't, just to try and keep it interesting. With agility, I'm known to put the A-frame in the distance because sometimes it just works, and I've had a few complaints about that. But when I do, if I put an A-frame in the distance, I'll always make sure that the handler is running parallel with the dog, so there's no deviation on that line. So there's just a straight line for that one. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find that balance between it being good, easy enough for the dog, but not too boring. So it's still a little bit of a challenge. But yeah.
Yeah, to make it even worth being it's different class. Otherwise, it's,
Yeah. I don't want it to just be a straight line, but a little bit further away from the handler. If I'm going to make them turn, I'll use a tunnel to kind of flick them around and keep that momentum going. I think momentum's a big thing. If you have a distance in open where the dog comes to do a slow down and they have to collect, it's really hard for them to then keep going at a distance. So you want to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, that's where the confusion can come in because a lot of dogs, especially the dogs that are a bit more up, will be sort of stop and then be like, I've lost
Yep.
it all. Or actually, that's the same for dogs that are sort of less motivated because as soon as you stop them, then they're just completely checked out. So yeah, I can see
you
how
want to
that's
keep
really
them
important.
moving in the distance so they don't have to, stop and start away from their handler. I think that's really hard for dogs to do.
And you touched on this a little, but when you watch a great run, what stands out to you the most where you go, yeah, that was really good?
I mean, the main thing is having fun for both the dog and the handler. And just the way the handlers treat their dogs. That's a big thing for me. You know, admitting that they're at fault and just laughing it off and keep going. And at the same time, dogs are not perfect. And even though 99% of the time it's the handler that's at fault, I have seen a few runs, especially in Coffs Harbour. I saw one run where the dog deviated off the path, and both I know the handler quite well, and we're both looking at each other. I'm like, yeah, that was naughty. I thought they should be going where you said they told him to go. Your shoulders and everything was pointing the right way, and the dog just went off course. But she just laughed, gave the dog a little cuddle, and carried on. So that makes me happy. Like that, like, yeah, you're not perfect. No one is. Let's just keep going and having fun.
So, how would you say the sport has changed since you started judging? What have you noticed that has changed over the 11 years?
Definitely safety. I think we're so much more aware of keeping our dogs safe, just not just in course design, equipment, just everything. So this is not just from when I started judging, but when I started competing, and this is in a different country where things were a bit weird. Um, we actually had a water jump in South Africa. So it was just a normal jump, and on the landing side of the jump, they would put this plastic tray and fill it with water.
They're trying to do like cross country with horses.
Yep. So the dogs would jump and they would land in a plastic tray full of water, slipping and sliding. The thing wasn't like pinned down, it would just slide across. It was like looking back at that, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just insane. Like the things we did. And because I was 13, I was like, oh yeah, this is normal. This is just what you do, and off we go. But then in Australia, when I first started competing, we had metal uprights, just stick in the ground uprights with metal cups for the bars, and then the cloth tunnel of doom. That was just the most horrendous piece of equipment. So I don't know if you ever saw that one or competed with that one.
The chute, I am familiar,
Yep.
but it was already out by the time I was sort of in training.
Yeah, so just a metal drum
Yeah.
with a piece of cloth at the end. I think it got pulled out just as I started judging, and I was so grateful because the judges would have to go and like straighten it out after every single run, and then my little border collie got caught up in it and was just crocodile rolling in it once, and it's just horrendous. So I'm so glad that's gone. But yeah, just with course design, we're just so much more aware of keeping our dogs safe, and I think also emotional safety. So being aware of our dogs' emotional states when they're going in. And, I think people are so much quicker to pull their dogs out of runs if they're just not coping, if they're too stressed or they're too worried. Yep. Which is nice to see.
Yeah, that is important. So I guess, and along that line, are there any other cultural shifts that you sort of see happening now that are going to be like in the future we'll reflect back on of, that's different?
And I think that I can't really think of anything more other than just the big safety thing. Be interesting to see where that goes into the future. I know there's a lot of talk at the moment about the dog walk, whether that should be wider or lower, or I think wider would be good. Our boy Nelson came off the dog walk. It was about 2 weeks before the Perth Nationals, and it was horrible. Like just watching him. It was just in training, and he just took it at a funny angle, slipped off, and kind of landed on his head. I thought he broke his neck. It was horrible to watch. So I would like to see the dog walk either lower or wider. I think that would be, I can't really think of anything else that is really changing in terms of culture. Things I'd like to see changing culture is definitely people helping out more, being a little less selfish. That's definitely something that just you speak to any judge in Australia and they're just like, people just need to help out a bit more. Not sure if that will ever happen, but yeah.
That might be a dream that we'll live up to, maybe. You brought up dog walk, and this is my podcast, so I'm going to give my 2 cents on it. And I think that the obvious answer is to lower it. And I actually get a little bit frustrated by seeing the conversations because I've seen people be like, we need more data and we need more this and we need more that. And I'm just like, did they think about data when they brought in the obstacle to begin with? I very much doubt it.
Yeah.
And so to me, it just makes logical sense that we already have these equipment everywhere.
Yeah.
Just half the size of the height, and you solve half the problem. Because if they fall off it, they're going to get less damage. I mean, to me, that I'm just doing my soapbox because this is my podcast, so I can.
Lowering would definitely make it would be easier to achieve as well. So most people or most clubs have Galligan contacts these days that has various settings because we use it in training for our puppies, and we have it like really low, and there's a middle height, and it would just be safer, I think.
That's right. And even if you didn't have one that did lower on its own, I think that would be much easier to modify
They're
than
making
a
it wider.
widening. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Widening it would have less dogs fall off, but they could still fall off, and it's still a fall from a height. And yeah, having watched my dog do it, it was just, oh, I have nightmares about it. Thinking like my little dog, there's a very small chance that she could fall off because she's so little. So for her, it's quite wide. But yeah, I dread to think what would happen if she did fall off it. Like it's just really scary.
So, what role do you think judges have in sort of shaping that culture and those changes?
I think it's mainly in course design. Um, so always just making sure that your courses are safe and learning from stuff. So I've had courses where I thought it was safe and then nothing bad happened. You just watch dogs and it's amazing how well dogs can actually correct their path. But going right, that did not work. And just learning from that and watching lots of other runs and yeah, critiquing your own courses and reflecting on them afterwards to go, right, that did not go according to plan, which still happens sometimes. And not doing it again. So I remember once I had a tunnel into weaves, and this was masters, and not a single dog could get those weaves. And I was like, oh okay. Well, let's not do that again ever. Just they came out of the tunnel too fast and they overshot the weaves, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, I think it's just course design, making sure everything is safe, and pushing for that, and questioning in an appropriate way other judges' designs. Because sometimes you miss stuff. I love it when a judge walks up to me when I set up my course and go, "Hey, have you considered blah?" And I look at it and I'm like, "Oh shit, no, I didn't." And I just love that. Like they're always, respectful of it, and it's always nice to have that extra pair of eyes to go, "Hang on, did you see this?" And you look at it and you're like, "Oh, no, I didn't." And then being open to that sort of critique and go, "Okay, well, let's fix it. How can we fix it?" And getting their input and being open to that and not getting upset when someone do question your course design because you're human and you can easily miss stuff. And yeah.
That was something I actually, now that you bring it up, it was something I enjoyed watching yourself and your partner Simon doing at Coffs Harbour, because obviously in Darwin there's one ring at a time. We only have one judge, so there's no collaboration. So it was really interesting to see. And obviously for you two, you're not going to offend each other because you're
Yeah.
partners, so that's easy. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool to see those conversations actually happen in front of me. Like, there was one for one of the ones I was in. I can't remember which one, but where one of you would question the other and be like, "Have you looked at this line? Like, have you
Yeah.
stood here and looked at the
Yeah.
dog's path?" And then
Yeah.
one of you went there and was like, "Oh."
Yeah, no, it's really handy to have Simon around. Like we do like working together on setting up our courses as well as when we're designing. So our study, we have both our desk and computers in the same study. And so I'll be designing like, hey, what do you reckon of this line? Or I'll send him my courses and he'll be like, did you look at this and this and this? He's very critique. Like he critiques everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's one of those ones where I'll fix it on the day. He's a lot more perfectionist than I am as well. So it's really handy to have him look at my courses. And sometimes I have to bring him down a little bit. So he'll be like, I don't like this. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, look, they're going to land here and then they're going to turn here and it's fine. Like, otherwise he'll be out there all day setting up his courses, I reckon.
But I guess that is the benefit of, like you're saying, collaborating with other judges that are at the events you're at, because they're all going to have their own perspectives and their own like perfectionist things or other things.
Yeah. And I've had it like before where you have to be careful when judges are actually going to be running your course, because people might think, oh, they're helping you change the line. Is it going to benefit their dog in specifically? And I don't think it will. Like, I don't think anyone will go, hey, can we change your course to this so my dog can go clear? Like, I don't think that's a thing. It's just having that extra pair of eyes. And at the end of the day, it's going to benefit everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is sort of the hardest thing about judging that maybe people don't really know or talk about?
The absolute hardest thing is being especially in a small community, is being the steward of the rules. And not just like your black and white, that's a drop bar, it's a fault, or that's a refusal rules. Those other rules about conduct. So, when you have a good friend who outside the ring, your best friends, you go to the pub together, and then they, in a moment, are mean to their dog or they're a bit rough with their dog, and you have to go up and go, hey, that's not okay. It's really hard because you have to take that friend hat off and put your judge hat on and go, this is actually against the rules. I'm gonna have to pull you up on this. We were actually talking about that in a group of judges a while ago, and someone made a really good suggestion. And she's like, instead of going, I'm going to penalize you for rough handling your dog, go up to them as a friend and go, hey, are you okay? Like, you're not normally mean to your dogs. Are you okay today? So I was like, oh, that actually makes it a lot easier because then you're coming from you're still upholding the rules and pulling someone up on their behavior, but you also have that little friend aspect of going, hey, this is out of character for you. Are you okay? So you're rough handling your dog. It's against the rules, but yeah, being that compassionate, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Because we had a few where I was like, oh, I don't want to go tell him off because I'm also friends with them, but you have to. You have to just take your friend hat off, put your judge hat on, and yeah.
I can see that that's probably more of a problem in WA because you're small, but you still have your own judges, whereas we only have one local judge. So where all of our judges are being flown in. And
Yeah.
so they have that sort of impartiality, I think. So
Yeah.
they don't seem to have any fears of saying anything to
Yeah,
anyone.
it's definitely when you go over, like if I go judge over East, it'd be easier because, I'm never going to see these people again potentially. Well, yeah. But when it's a close friend and you're like, well, you've now broken the rules and right now I can't be your friend. I have to be your agility judge. That's hard. I find that really hard. Doesn't
Yeah.
happen often. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often. Most of it, it's like you're black and white. That was a refusal, that was a fault. But it's those other sort of gray area rules that you still have to uphold. But it's hard when it's a friend.
Yeah, and I think that's not, I mean, obviously, as a judge, like you say, you kind of have an obligation to do it, but I think that's also just important. I mean, I've spoken a lot about this. I have a whole episode about culture and sort of my thoughts on how to make this better because it is actually a community thing. Like everybody should be responsible because it's the same thing as safety, right? Everybody at the end of the day is responsible for safety. Everybody. So and that's the same as if we want a positive culture, it shouldn't just be on the judges to be calling out things that it should be someone else being able to go up to them and say, hey, are you okay? Because, this is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it's tricky, but it's our job.
So if you could give every competitor out there, just anyone, a single piece of advice before they walk to the start line, what would you say?
It's actually something I stole a little while ago from Dan Shaw. He posted it, and I was like, I love it so much. I want to print it off and put a big poster at my ringside. And it's basically, you train the dog, you are handling the dog, you can read the numbers. Don't blame the dog. Cherish every run, and don't be a dick to your dog. I just love it. I was like, yeah, it comes down to that. Like you're in charge here. You are the one responsible. Don't blame them. Like go back and train.
You need that on a t-shirt so you can stand out in the field.
Yeah, I just needed I want to make a poster that I put up ringside, put it on my shirt. Yeah.
So in Australia, and you can be WA specific if you want, but like where do you think agility is heading or where would you like it to head? Like what would you like to see in future?
In WA specifically, and I'm not sure if it's the same over East, I'm very aware that agility is shrinking. Like if I think about when I first started running and judging, and especially because I was running trials for our club as well, on a regular, like a double-headed trial, we would have 700 to 800 runs for the day. And I think these days we're lucky if we have maybe 300 for the day, 400 for the day. So it's definitely shrinking. Not really sure why, whether it's people have less dogs. So like, it'd be hard to say, oh, who is left? I'm like, it's the same people that are still around, but have we got less dogs? I definitely do. At one stage, I was running 4 dogs, and whether it's a cost thing that people just can't afford that many dogs anymore, or just more sense. um, so I'd like to see the sport grow a bit more again, and I think that comes back in with your volunteers. Like when I was president of the club for a while, and finding instructors is just a nightmare. Like everyone wants to train their own dog, and so you have all these new people that are interested, but we don't have anyone to instruct them and to help them along and keep the sport growing. So I'd like to see more of that, like people just giving back. It's hard, I get it, but at the same time, we have this smaller group of people who put in all of the effort, and it's just not enough to sustain the sport. So we need to see more people instructing, helping newbies get that spark and that addiction that you see happening. It's like, to try and explain that to people, like, it's so satisfying to see when you like see someone, you go and go, oh yeah, I might like this. And you go, okay, and you start helping them and you just see them just get addicted and loving it so much. And next thing they're buying equipment and they're getting another dog. And it's actually really satisfying. But to get that across to people, there's more to the sport than just training your own dog and running your own dog. Like, get more involved. So I'd like to see that happening more. Same at trials, like just having more people help. So that's like shared responsibility for the community, I think would be nice to see. I think we're on track with things like safety and our dogs' welfare, like compared to, when I first started, things like dog physios and chiropractors and stuff, which is not a thing. Whereas everyone now is like on top of their dog's physical wellness, their emotional wellness. As long as that continues, that would be good. But yeah, I think growing the community would be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my language. I run the training here because, we just don't have the instructors. So I think I have a replenishment rate of 1. I think I get one person who leaves and another person who slots in, and that's why it doesn't grow. It just,
Yeah.
that's it. I absolutely agree. And I've spoken a lot on here about community and giving back and how that should be part of the overall journey is, you start and you've maybe focused on yourself, but eventually you should be wanting to build that community.
And, people are like, oh, I don't know how to instruct. I'm not like, teaching foundation stuff is so easy. You just need the basic stuff. And it's not even like we've had people who are not even running agility yet, like their own dogs were not even competing yet, teaching puppy foundations, because it's that really basic stuff that about, just training a dog. And so it's not hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. I really have loved this conversation. Thank you so much for, giving your time to this podcast today.
Thank you.
This has been Flat Out Agility. Be kind to dogs.